Hey guys, welcome to the Startup Tank Climate Investor Pitch Show, brought to you by Forward VC and our partner in crime, Climate Accelerator. If you're a climate company looking to change the world in big ways, you're looking to get customers, grow, scale, and raise your bigger rounds to make a real impact, check us out at forward.vc to learn more about our accelerator and how we help companies literally go forward faster. And this is also brought to you by Valbon. But before we get into Valbon and our other sponsors, I want to tell you a little bit more about the Startup Tank and what we do here. We're, for lack of a better term, a shark tank or dragon's den for climate companies. We bring on the world's most interesting pre-seed to pre-series A climate companies, and we put them in front of a panel of climate VCs, our folks at Forward VC, and today we're joined by two other awesome investor panelists as well. We'll give you a lowdown on who's here and how the program works in a sec, but if you are a climate company and you're looking to fundraise, be sure to check out thestartuptank.com and to apply. And on our site as well at forwardvc.vc database, you can find, we put together 850 climate funds, incubators, accelerators, and CVCs. You can filter those by stage, sector, geography, and check size to find your ideal investor. That's all at forward.vc/VC database. And I'm your host, Matt Ward. If this is your first time tuning in, we've got six incredible climate companies tonight. They're going to have 5 minutes each to pitch to our Sharky panel to see who will be crowned Startup of the Night. The company that wins, they'll get 5,000 British pounds in design services from the Eugen agency, the number one or our favorite go-to when it comes to climate-focused design, both with branding, pitch decks, etc. And all the runners-up will get a free strategy session on positioning their brands to really grow, scale, be professional, and raise some funding from maybe some of the sharks we've got here. Our other sponsor tonight is Valbon by Carta, who we love and use for setting up SPVs with our syndicate. So Forward VC, we run an early stage climate accelerator. We invest in companies that are moving the world forward. And we do that at the pre-seed and seed stage, try to help them get 2 to 5 plus new major customers, pilots, traction, etc., so that once they're done with our program, they can go and raise a real round. Well, we do SPVs or sidecar vehicles, and we use Valbon for that. You can find out more about them at forward.vc/Carta, that's CARTA. And now that Assure has exited the marketplace, there's not a lot of good ways to do SPVs. So check them out. Now, I want to welcome in my other panelists for tonight. Today, I'm going to be joined by Aaron Sori with Nucleus Capital and Mathias Lorenz with Rockstart. For once, I got all the names right. I'm going to add them into the picture now and let them give a little bit more of a chance to share kind of who they are, what they do, what their fund's focused on. You want to go first, Mathias?
Yes, thanks a lot for having me in the first place. My name is Mathias. I'm the investment manager of Rockstart Agri-Food. We're a domain-specific early-stage investor, so that means we go in at pre-seed or seed. And our strategy is to reinvest in our portfolio companies upwards to Series B. I'm managing today a portfolio of 42 companies across the world within ag and food tech. And we focus on a number of different tech stacks like platforms, SaaS businesses, hardware, manufacturing companies, and biotech companies. I think that's Rockstart Agri-Food in short. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And Aaron?
Yep, very nice to meet you, Matt. Thanks for having me. So I'm an investor at Nucleus Capital. We're a pre-seed seed VC based in Berlin, London. We are fairly specific in terms of we like symbio, food and climate, and we come in at the pre-seed and seed stage, a little bit more allocation towards the pre-seed side of things, but we're fairly agnostic with everything else. So we invest globally, which is a lot of fun. And then we also invest across various different business models and technology stacks, whether it's software, biotech, hardware. We're quite fond of actually quite CapEx heavy businesses. So it's, I think that's a pretty broad, but fairly comprehensive opening.
Because if it's not CapEx heavy, a lot of time it's pretending to be a climate company is kind of what I like to say. We, at Forward VC, we do pre-seed and seed in Europe, North America, and Israel primarily. And we'll look at just about everything that's more hands-on and tangible than carbon marketplaces and carbon accounting. Our goal is to have real massive real world impact, things that can change the world scale, be that manufacturing, materials, food and ag. We'll look at biotech if there's other smart folks on board, but we want to make sure that we've got kind of the right mix of our network, our connections, so that we can help push the companies forward. We've got 6 awesome companies here for you guys today. I'm going to give us a check-in now to kind of introduce the program, how it'll work. So the Startup Tank, you get 5 minutes on the clock. It's a shot clock. At the end, The bells will ding. We'll bring in our investor panelists, and we'll have about 10 minutes of Q&A. At the end, we'll have our winner-takes-all climate startup of the night, and a thank you to the sponsors. If you want to learn more about us, apply for an upcoming session. We do this every 2 weeks. It's thestartuptank.com. But now it's time for me to get off of here and to hand things over to awesome companies of the night. I'm going to give a reward for being early. Yorgi with Aqualitas, you want to take over and tell us what the future of water monitoring looks like?
Sure, of course. Thank you, Matt. So let me just share the screen.
And I'll give you a 1-minute warning when your time's coming to a close, so you can kind of accelerate things.
Of course. So I can start.
You are good to go. Go for it.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. It is so great to be here and present Aqualitas, a new era of self-aware water quality sensors. And I want to welcome you to the water world, where the water treatment market is expected to double to almost $500 billion in the next decade. Our playing ground is in the intersection between two fast-growing segments of equipment and smart water that is expected to reach to $25 billion. But there is a problem. Water bodies all across the world are polluted, and water companies are paying billions in fines. And not only that, but also the carbon footprint of water treatment is enormous. It is estimated that around 3% of the energy consumption goes toward treatment of wastewater alone. We are talking about an annual bleed of more than $4 billion only in the USA. So here you are probably wondering, what are they doing about it? So let me show you. It's like a horror story. So to eliminate these costs, companies that deal with water must know what the water contains at each stage. And they can do it today by installing real-time sensors that cost tens of thousands of dollars. But unfortunately, those sensors start to provide unreliable data soon after they are installed. And the easiest way to explain it is that when you put a sensor into contaminated water, the sensors also get contaminated and start to provide faulty data. But current sensors have no way to self-identify and report the problem when it occurs. They are what we call stupid sensors, stupid devices. So the common practice is to manually monitoring the sensors. And it is not really practical because the users never know what the true error is. And as a result, the operators do not trust the data that the sensors collecting, and they go back to do manual tests and eventually act based on their experience and their hunch. So we ask ourselves a question. What if sensors could become sentient, capable of identifying and compensating for faults when they occur, providing immediate and precise alerts of critical failure, and doing all of that at a fraction of existing costs, eliminating millions of dollars in losses? And this is exactly what we do in Aqualitas. We are developing the first self-aware multi-parameter IoT water quality sensors that performs autonomous self-calibration, requires the simplest of maintenance, and can provide reliable information. And all of that for an affordable price, and we already have paid pilots underway. Our sensors are installed in critical points across the water network, and they upload their data to our Aqua Insight cloud in real time, where our AI monitors the calibration health. And only at this stage, the accurate and precise data of both the water quality and the sensor health is transmitted to the operator on a web platform. So it can alert them of abnormal behavior, notify them when simple maintenance must be performed, and it will enable them to optimize their processes. Our first such platform is the Unum. It has both advanced optics and multi-directional detection to collect unique data that we later use to train our AI models to separate between the measurement of the water and the contamination of the sensor. And the uniqueness of what we do at Aqualitas is the holistic approach of both the technology and the business model. That means that our modular platform achieves really low equipment cost. The smart algorithms prolong the sensor lifetime, and the cartridge-like swappable sensor allow for easy maintenance that everyone can perform. So all those attributes allow us to provide our solution as a service, which means for our customers, they have zero capital expenses and fixed and low operational expenses. So we minimize the risk of and we dramatically reduce their high expenses on monitoring. And the reliable data itself will enable them to reduce the bleed on both energy and chemicals. So for example, for wastewater treatment control, we can monitor critical parameters, provide alerts of anomalous behavior in real time, saving both energy and manpower. And in agriculture, we can monitor the water treatment process that is used for irrigation, and we can also provide information regarding the water fertilization status. So to achieve all of that, we have built a great multidisciplinary team of data scientists, water scientists, business experts in the water industry, and experts in sensory solutions. We are a portfolio company of the I4 Valley Incubator, and we have received 2 grants from the Israel Innovation Authority.
1 minute warning.
Today, we have several active pilots, among them monitoring of effluent in wastewater treatment plant and the effluent monitoring that is used for irrigation with company named Netafim, which is a global leader in drip irrigation. In the next 18 months, we will start penetration with our sentient sensors to the wastewater and agricultural sectors in Europe. And after that, we will add North America and additional algorithmic services to our solution that will cover all the treatment process. But eventually, we see ourselves everywhere in agriculture, in drinking water, even at our homes. So we are currently raising our seed round, and we basically invite you to join us in this new era of water equality and a safer future. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for the presentation. Let me bring the other panelists in here now. While I'm doing that, one quick question. What, if any, IP do you guys have? What protects you from doing this versus everyone else?
Yes, so we have applied for a PCT patent that will soon become a patent or go to the national stage on the unique part of our technology, which is basically using the data that the sensor collects to do the automatic calibration without stopping the process itself. And here comes the AI and the smart algorithms into play. And additionally, we have a lot of IP that is patentable in the near future. Okay, Mathias, do you want to kick things off?
Yeah, thanks a lot for a great presentation. Can you elaborate a little bit on your go-to-market strategy? I mean, I saw three quite different verticals on one of the slides. Where is your beachhead market and how are you going to address it? Are you going to use resellers? Are you going to try to set up your own sales force? And maybe sort of a point to that. Who's the commercial lead in the team? It sounded very tech-heavy. I saw a Technion for a number of the profiles on the team.
So can you repeat the second question?
Who's going to be the commercial lead in the team? I saw that most of the team members come from Technion, which is, of course, is amazing. But who's going to drive sales?
So actually, Matan Stroh is our head of BizDev. He was a vice president for many years in a big consulting company in Israel in the area of water. So he's very familiar with the water market, global water market, and with many of the big companies in the world. So this is, I hope, answers the second question. For the first question, sorry if you can repeat it in 2 words.
Yeah, the go-to-market, basically. I mean,
the go-to-market, yes.
Verticals. Which of them are you going to bet on initially? Who's going to give you that universal sort of traction you're looking for?
Yeah, so we have started from the wastewater treatment facilities, basically monitoring the effluent. We are looking at currently at Europe. Basically, we are looking at territories where there is a good privatization of the treatment plants. So in Europe, we have around 30,000 plants, and many of them are privatized. So there are companies that basically operate those plants and really take care of the efficiency of the plants because it costs a lot of money for them. And they also operate a big amount of plants, usually not only one, when most of them are small plants, where it is especially problematic for them to monitor the water quality and provide good effluent as a first market. But in addition, we're also working, as I said, with Netafim, which is in the field of agriculture. Again, we're looking in quite a similar application of water treatment, but working with a company like Netafim that has representation in 120 countries so across the world and 2 million customers. Also could be a good platform for us. So on one side, it's partners. On the other side is basically resellers in each territory with whom we can work.
Yeah, thanks.
Aaron, you want to jump in?
Sure. Yep. Could you, I know you briefly touched on it just then. Could you please describe the pilots in a little bit more detail? And I don't know, the capacity to then convert them into sort of, maybe full-time paying contracts afterwards. And then just a touch on, it'd be really interesting to know how much you're actually raising for this round.
Sure. Yeah. So for the pilots, we are doing, I think about five pilots in the last 6 months. All of the pilots were chosen very strategically because, again, developing AI in a field where you have a very, very low amount of data, it's important to find partners that can provide you with a lot of data. So this was a very strategic consideration that we took the pilots. Some of them is with Mekorot. Mekorot is our global water company in Israel, so it is an important pilot for us. With Netafim, as I said, it is a good collaboration that we are looking into because they have a very specific problem in their systems that they want to be solved, and they see our solution as a solution for it. And we have several companies that we have some KPIs with them, and one of them already actually very interested in our solution and basically paying for the solution for so on.
Okay, excellent. And the fundraise?
About the fundraise, so unfortunately I cannot disclose the amount currently because we are, I mean, in this forum, but I can disclose it privately. But let's say it's a standard amount for a company in stage.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so 1 or 2 million. What's the actual business model look like? How do you guys make money? What do you charge? What are your margins?
Yes. So as I said, we are doing monitoring as a service. Basically, customers, and our system is also designed in a very modular way. So the customer basically chooses how many parameters he needs to monitor in this system, how many system he requires, and he pays per month for the use of the system. That basically doesn't pay for the hardware itself. The ROI on our side with a system would be between 3 to 4 months, depends on the amount of parameters that we choose. All the replaceable components are part of the pricing, basically we're already paying for it. Also the cloud platform and all the algorithms and so on. The beauty in this model is that the later stage would be to take the data and to develop with it additional algorithms that will be added, like a SaaS platform will be added as additional services for the customers to choose from. On the pricing point, so we are starting from $350 a month on the most basic plan, let's say, which is 3 parameters, and it's going up, or it depends on the parameters.
When do companies or wastewater treatment plants start to see savings? Where are the savings coming from, and how much are they actually saving?
Yeah, sure. So the energy is their largest cost. So it's, as I said, 3% of the total energy of the country goes toward wastewater treatment processes, especially in aeration, which is part of the process, but also the chemicals. So basically, this is where we are coming in. We don't look so much on the part of the regulation, but more on the part of the process. How do we improve? Gives the information to improve the process, and basically they can see ROI immediately, because using the data that is reliable, data that they can trust, they can immediately understand how to control their processes in a better way.
Mathias, Aaron, any follow-up? Yeah, no, raise your hands, just shout them out.
Yeah. How are you dealing with sort of servicing and maintenance and replacement of components? Are you going to do that, or how are you going to tackle that?
Yeah, so we designing our solution, our sensors, in a way that the components are what we call them single use. It doesn't sound very green, but it's actually much greener than what is happening today. So when our system cannot, when our AI cannot compensate anymore for the deviation of the measurement, we basically can identify it, send our customers a replaced component that he can replace himself, basically taking one out, putting the other in. The ones that it takes out, it can send back to us for recalibration and using down the line for different applications.
Okay, clear. And I don't think you answered Matt's question on the margins.
Very good call. I missed that.
Yeah, sorry. The margins for
the product sale or manufacturing, basically, of the hardware.
For us, you mean?
Yeah.
So the ROI for a system would be between 3 to 4 months, and after that is basically everything is profit.
But once you're operating sort of at scale, what gross margin are you going to sort of deliver?
I think I have a problem in translation. Sorry.
Just on your income statement, what is sort of the profit you're making after you sell the hardware?
I see the gross profit. It's would be, again, with scale of the equipment, because we are developing the hardware, producing the hardware itself as well, is around the gross profit around 70%.
Okay, that's pretty healthy. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you sold?
So a little bit lower than SaaS, than pure SaaS, but higher than hardware. So yeah.
What about the components? Have you sold enough components to meet demand for next year, or are there any critical components that are sort of locked up in sort of global supply chains at the moment, as we see in other manufacturing companies?
It's a part of the challenge today, and we are working around it again with also great Israeli startups. That is actually, this is their main deal, to find components when they're missing.
Okay, so still some work to do there.
Yeah. It's always a challenge, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to check. Thanks.
What do you see as the biggest risk in the business? What could prevent you from being successful?
Yeah, so the water industry is known to be quite conservative, actually, which could be a big risk because some of the processes could take a long time. Again, we're trying to intervene with these processes, so we are not going to get B2G, but we are preparing to go B2B because due to privatization, and we have this solution, again, part of the business model, which is a service. It means that the customers don't need to pay a big lump sum for the hardware. But this conservatism of the water companies could be difficult.
Yeah, utilities are never a fast sell.
Yes.
You have to survive long enough to not die to be able to sell these. It's a super interesting one. Any last questions from you guys? Aaron, Mathias?
Good.
Awesome. Then I would say thanks, Georgi.
Georgi.
Georgi. I got to get a name wrong every time. It's just one of the rules. And speaking of getting names wrong, I'm going to hand things over now to Dijon with Moree, and they are revolutionizing the packaging industry, making reusable packaging as simple as returning a Netflix DVD. If you can imagine that, when we used to have Netflix DVDs. You guys there? You ready to rock?
We are ready.
Awesome. Let me know when you're good. We'll start the 5 minutes and then you take it away.
Yeah, you can start.
Let's go.
It's called Moree, and it's a reusable packaging that helps food companies switch to reusable packaging. We provide companies with a whole system of reusable packaging, making it easy for them to switch away from single-use packaging. Claire and I started working together 14 years ago as innovation engineers in the food industry, helping different supermarkets, food producers, and restaurants develop more sustainable products and services. Now, we've worked with really big companies like Sainsbury's, McDonald's, Marks and Spencer's, and Coca-Cola. And over these years, our clients kept asking us, what can we do about our packaging? Their customers are fed up of plastic. Governments are introducing different laws and regulations about packaging and waste. And packaging prices have just gone through the roof recently. The food brands are actually desperate to be more sustainable, but there is no easy solution for them out there. And this is where we saw a gap in the market and decided to start Moree.
So there are three key pillars in our system. Firstly, there's our innovative flat pack packaging design, which is durable, washable, and can be reused over 300 times. Secondly, easy returns. We've tested different ways of getting customers to return their packaging. And the thing that customers prefer is posting it back in a prepaid envelope. And finally, return systems need incentives. Instead of charging people deposits, we're developing an app that rewards them for fast returns. So here's how we make money. Our main revenue stream is selling our reusable packaging to brands. Once their customers return it to us, we wash it and we sell it over and over and over again. The postage and washing actually costs less than producing new packaging, so our profits increase with every sale. And because we're building a community of passionate green customers, we will be able to charge brands in order for their customers to reach all of those brands. Brands will also pay for data about the amount of plastic and carbon they're saving, and they need this for their ESG reporting, and that is gold dust as well for their marketing.
So the market for the fast-moving consumer goods packaging is actually huge. It's $1 trillion market, but interestingly, reusable packaging is the fastest growing segment with around 11% annual growth. Now, since starting last year, we've had around £100,000 in grant and equity funding to kickstart the pilots. And we're currently testing our system with several brands in London. Now, we've developed and tested the mail return logistics, And we've built an MVP version of our tracking system, which actually uses QR codes to track the packaging, where it is in the cycle, how many times it's been reused. And during these pilots, we've tested and built over 100 different prototypes, tested them with 50 paying customers, which really helped us define the design spec, the material, and the features that it needs. And our current designs cater for dry goods like coffee, granola, and pasta. Now, this is
1 minute warning.
This is what we have right now, but our vision is much bigger. We plan to use our engineering expertise to expand the packaging range and cover the entire grocery basket. We will work with retailers to make it as easy and convenient for the end customers to buy in Moree packaging. And speaking of convenience, we actually want to make it easy for them to return the packaging as well. So we're developing an infrastructure around reuse. Now imagine that next to your general bin and your recycling bins, you also have a smart bin for dropping off your Moree packaging, which is collected on a weekly basis, taken for washing and redistribution. And to tie it all together, we're building a reward scheme to include digital tokens that will help turn waste into valuable assets. So we have a big vision, but we're staying at quite grounded and taking one step at a time. So we are now raising £250,000 to produce our first batch of packaging, to build the customer app and the rewards plan, and to launch Moree in the UK with the first 25 brands. And we've already received £100,000 from a lead investor and also some match funding from a UK green tech grant. And we're looking to close the round
up
with 150K. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, guys. It's certainly an original pitch with the start. Let me bring in our investors. Hopefully no one was listening just via audio. Otherwise that was a little interesting, but let's get everybody in here. One question I have while I'm pulling everyone in: do they have to have these recyclable bins? I thought the system also works as well through the post. It's going to be very hard if you need to get people to put the bins into different locations.
Absolutely, yeah. So no, right now the system works only through the postal bag system. So we provide them with a return label, and they send it back in a small envelope. So it's really easy to just put it back in the post box. You don't really have to go to a special return point. You don't have to use any bins. You don't have to go to any post office and wait in the queue. Put it in an envelope and put it through the post box. The bit about the bins is our vision for the future, to build a whole infrastructure to make it really mainstream and get it alongside your recycling bin. You would have a Moree reuse bin where you drop off the packaging. That's future vision.
Yeah, we're seeing that, there's a big increase in this returnable packaging market, but it's really in its infancy. So we're looking ahead 3 or 4 years to the moment when people are becoming more accustomed to the notion of returning their packaging. So it will become a little bit more of a common gesture, the idea that you would send your packaging back. And at that moment, we have several councils who are very keen to engage with us, because they are all trying to find ways of tackling the waste burden. So we've been working with different councils in London who are all interested in seeing how this might help them going forwards.
Okay, understood. I certainly see it with the mailbox, but having to put in the systems, if there's going to be a bunch of reuse return packaging companies that don't have their own system, I think it'll clog up the system even more, so to speak. Yeah. Looks like you wanted to say something, Aaron?
Yeah, no, just on the note of the returning the packaging, have you done any sort of consumer surveys or seen what that kind of adoption is like today?
Yeah, so we spent about 6 months with a live pilot with about 50 customers, where we were supplying them with groceries to check, because our first question that we needed to test was, will people really return their packaging? And what was really surprising to us, but really positive and made us very hopeful, was that we saw pretty much 100% return rate. And we wanted to find out, we run surveys and a bit of customer observation, and we wanted to find out what is the easiest way for customers to do this. And overwhelmingly, customers preferred to post it back. We also had a couple of customers even bring the packaging back to us. So we've also seen through our surveys that customers, the one thing that they associate with when you ask them about sustainability and grocery shopping, they talk about packaging and plastic. It's the one thing that is tangible for customers And actually people are super keen to be doing the right thing, and they are prepared to make a little bit of effort in order to make that right thing happen.
Okay. And then just one other thing on the washing and return. So you mentioned that the washing and return costs less than producing new plastic.
Yeah.
Is that when you guys reach scale, or is that right now? Because that's quite a
yeah, there is a moment. Of course, right now we're running a few pilots, and our numbers are quite small. But if you imagine, for example, that we can wash about 250 pieces of packaging in one wash load. So unlike many of the other reusable packaging systems, our washing is done in a washing machine rather than a dishwasher. So a dishwasher has very limited capacity because every unit is basically taking up space. In a washing machine, we can fit a lot more packaging. So the washing is really negligible when we're at scale. And the return postage, the packaging is generally posted back, not in a single way, but in, we would, customers would be posting back 5 or 6 or even 10 pieces of packaging together. So we can, in the UK, we can post back as a large letter, which has quite a high weight limit, and it has a, I think a 2.5 centimeter thickness limit. So we can actually fit quite a lot of packaging in one envelope. And there are other companies we know that are doing this already, like the Bauer Collective, where they're also, it's a question of explaining to customers a little bit about how to organize the packaging within the envelope so that it stays within that thickness.
But that's the main uniqueness about what we're doing, is that the packaging is flat pack, and that it can fit in an envelope, and that it's soft, so it can be washed in a washing machine. It's more like a pouch rather than a solid container, and those are the two main things about our actual product innovation.
I mean, in theory, could you get rid of the envelope and just have the product itself be shippable with a stamp on it?
Yeah, so we are actually testing something exactly like that, where the packaging becomes the envelope, and this works particularly well in a B2B2B scenario where our clients are using quite large packaging because they're sending out to businesses, and we've been testing that in the sense that so for example, we're sending out a 5 kilo bag. They are sending out a 5 kilo bag of coffee. And the size of that pouch means that they can put all of their pouches together inside one pouch, and that's got a return envelope, a return label on it with a stamp, and it gets pre-posted back to us with all the packaging inside. So we are testing that. It's coming back consistently intact, and the post office is okay with it. It seems to work, and that is one of our USPs is to make that packaging also into an envelope if possible.
Can I jump into a question? I mean, as you say yourself, there's quite a lot of companies out there trying to do what you do. And when I speak to those type of companies, the feedback is that they run into challenges on adoption from the brands, that having a uniform or a standardized look or container or packaging material sort of defeats the purpose a little bit of setting your brand apart on the retail shelf.
Okay.
Money is sort of invested into standing out and being different and not uniform. Some companies even go to the extent of protecting the container they have their goods in. How are you tackling that issue in terms of customer adoption?
Well, actually, our packaging it arrives to our customer. They apply their own label, so it's very personalized by each of our brand customers. And then when it comes back, the
shape of the container is the same for all brands.
Well, if you think about coffee packaging, all coffee comes in the same identical pouch. It has, usually if you buy very high-end coffee, you'll see that it has maybe a compostable pouch with a sticker of the brand on it. And our packaging will do the same thing. And actually, I think it's one of our strengths that our packaging is universal. So we don't have, one type of packaging has to go to one brand. Our packaging will go to all the brands who buy into this. And I think that will become something of a positive rather than a negative.
It's kind of a universal system, but that is customizable by the brands with their labels.
It could be great, especially for just grocery stores that white label their own stuff, because they all have their own brands. But then you could also eliminate the whole shipping deal because people are coming into the store anyways, and they could just drop it off.
Yep. Exactly. That's the future of the drop-off bins. It is about having that drop-off point in the place where it's also sold. And that is sometime into the future, but definitely where we have to go with this. So customers will have that option of either using the post or using a drop-off point in their retail store.
How do you compare sort of a life cycle assessment in relative to biodegradable packaging, for example?
So biodegradable packaging is not the star of the week. Lots of companies that are highly sustainable are currently ditching it because they have recently, there's a lot of research which has showed that what is described as compostable packaging is not really compostable at all. It breaks down over time into tiny fragments, but it never fully composts. And so companies like Abel and Cole, for example, have put out an announcement about a month ago saying they're not using compostable packaging anymore because it's in a life cycle assessment. It comes off actually worse than if you count, other things apart from carbon. Then this kind of packaging is really not doing what it should do. And there's been a big backlash on literally in the last month and a half. Lots of research identifying that compostable packaging actually almost never ends up in the compost bin. It usually ends up in a general waste bin where it is doubly wasted because it's actually causing more of a problem in landfill or in energy from waste plants. And this is a big problem. If you're a company that wants to show that you're doing the right thing and this comes out that your packaging is actually not so sustainable, then this is a big worry for a company like Abel and Cole. They're desperate to find a system that is truly sustainable. And our product comes out really well on a life cycle analysis because after between 4 and 7 cycles, we become carbon neutral. And so if we're then going on to 300 uses or even more, obviously that our packaging is going to fare really well against a traditional single-use packaging, super well.
How are you carbon neutral? Something's being created.
Yeah, that is true. We do have a packaging, but it is once we have used our packaging 4 to 7 times, we have used up the same amount of carbon as a company would be using if they used single-use packaging 4 to 7 times. Does that make sense? So there's still a carbon impact, but it stops after 7. It cancels itself out. It's not neutral in itself, but it cancels itself out compared to single-use packaging.
Understood, like a carbon payback period. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the expression I need to use. Carbon payback period.
How do you scale? Everybody's trying to do the same thing. How do you guys win?
Well, we win because we have started quite early. We were one of the first companies that we know of who's doing what we're doing. We have a very unique selling point because we have a flat pack packaging, which is much, much cheaper to return and to wash. And we feel like we're ahead of the game right now. And we've also done a lot of work directly with customers, which puts us in a very good position to understand how this works and how it works for people and what the barriers are from a customer perspective of actually doing this. And we really want customers to feel like they're getting packaging which is exactly the same as when they buy a packet now from the shops. It does the same thing, they use it in the same way. The only one difference is they just post it back afterwards instead of putting it
one of the biggest friction points with our competitors has always been the returns, and it's mainly because they all use solid containers, and those solid containers are very difficult to return. You have to order a collection from like a DPD or Hermes courier. You have to leave a big box outside of your door when they collect it. So it's a bit of a hassle, or you have to take it off yourself to the drop-off point. So those are the main friction points. And actually, Tesco in the UK was doing a similar pilot with a company called Loop, which had beautiful containers, but you had to take them back to the store yourself. They were bulky, they were heavy, they were expensive, so they required a high deposit on them. And those are the main friction points. It's around this circularity, around the return. And we've solved that with our flat pack design and the lightweight and the low cost of the packaging itself as well.
Awesome. Any last questions, Aaron or Mathias?
No, all clear.
Well, then,
thank you for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you guys thank you for sharing. Thanks for what you're doing and presenting. If you're listening now and you haven't subscribed to the Startup Tank, if you're on YouTube or whatever your podcasting player of choice is, hit the subscribe button to make sure you never miss a thing. If you haven't joined our climate Slack for founders, you can visit that. It's at forward.vc. You'll find that and more information, our free VC database for climate companies looking to raise, and much, much more also about our accelerator and our accredited investor syndicate. And would love to, would love if you guys would reach out, share what you're doing, or if you're looking for more information. And now to To make things fun, how about we hand it over to a competitor, Rotem with Made Right. Rotem, what are you guys doing that's getting a fungi with a fungi?
Yeah, thank you, Matt. And Moree, I love what you do. I think perhaps competition, but when we look at the scale of things, the sheer quantities that we need to change and the time periods that we need all hands on board. So it's not one or the other, it's both.
It is both. You ready to take things away, Rotem?
I am.
Okay, your 5 minutes starts now.
Okay, just a sec. There we go. So at Made Right, we harness fungi to create sustainable materials. Our first product turns industrial waste into recyclable plastic. We're now closing our pre-seed and working on our V1 prototype. So now we are at a rate of consuming 5 grams of microplastics from the food, air, and water surrounding us, which is equivalent to a credit card a week going into our bodies. And like Moree just previously said, the plastic packaging problem is a very big problem. From a business perspective, this is converts to a need to solve for 3 things: the materials we use, the performance of those materials. By performance, I mean the shelf life, and ensuring recycling actually happens. Then we have bioplastics, the supposed solutions. Bioplastics are obtained from renewable resources and or biodegradable or recyclable. Their production requires 65% less energy than conventional plastics, and they solve the life cycle, being either recyclable or compostable. Yet bioplastics cost more, and they fail to meet the industry's requirements, not delivering performance and not hitting scale. And that's exactly where Made Right comes in. At Made Right, we provide a complete solution that perfectly integrates into existing supply chain. We get rid of petrochemicals and make bioplastics natural and durable by producing an additive we call Made Right Shield that enhances the performance of bioplastics, providing a package that extends shelf life. Made Right Shield protects against the 3 leading causes of product spoilage: air, microorganisms, and light. Its source is renewable and does not compete with human nutrition, and it is recyclable. So how do we do it? First, we receive industrial organic waste directly from companies. You can imagine wood chips from IKEA. Then we grow the fungi on the waste, kind of a biorefinery, if you will. The fungi eat it and convert it into biomass. And then through a assay of biotechnological steps, we extract Made Right Shield and fuse it with other bioplastics, creating pellets that are a drop-in solution for current production machinery. And we sell these enhanced pellets to our customers, packaging manufacturers. For the consumer, the product is identical, but it is safe for them and for the environment. And it is also recycled in the same way that consumers already recycle in their home. A little bit about the market. It's $1 trillion market. Our first segment is cosmetic packaging, focusing on a bioplastic market. And statistics show that we're now producing 120 billion units of personal care cosmetic packaging, most of which is not recycled and reaches the landfill or the oceans. And side by side, we have 230 global brands that made bold commitments to reduce and offset their plastic and carbon footprint. So the demand is huge. Where will our business happen? We're targeting Europe, where we'll actually be competitive because of regulation compared to fossil plastics. And it is the fastest growing market for post-consumer recyclable plastic. And our go-to market targets small to medium cosmetic brands. Our team is made of experts with strong background in biology, synthetic biology, organic chemistry, and material science, needed to execute on our vision, hand in hand with the business expertise and deep knowledge in the market. Thus far, we've produced the material and characterized its features bootstrap. We are now developing our unique recipe to create the pellets, and we'll have the prototype within 1 year. And within a year and a half, we want to have a pilot at an industrial setting, having all the needed regulation and certification to go to market.
Time is up. Sorry, I forgot to give you the 1 minute warning.
And that was the last.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing what you guys are doing and clarifying a little bit more. So you're basically creating the additive to then allow the bioplastics to perform better.
Exactly so.
Very cool. Very cool. Do you want to kick things off, Andrew? Oh, sorry, Aaron. Oh, one of those ones.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for the presentation. Could you clarify again, because Matt just asked a question and it kind of confused me a bit. So you're not producing the sort of mushroom plastic yourself, you're producing an additive?
Yes.
Okay. So then your potential customer base will be the people producing the bioplastic?
So we have two revenue streams based on the same technology. One is creating bioplastic pellets. These pellets are sold to our customers, packaging manufacturers. Why would they buy them? Because we have an unprecedented claim where we will be able to put on top of the package that is 100% recyclable.
Okay.
And renewable. Up until now, there has always been a trade-off between performance and sustainability. Now, this is a very strong claim because they can put on, so us as consumers can, at that critical purchase, can see that the brand is investing in sustainability. Up until now, it's only been 40%. The second revenue stream is selling just the additive,
right,
either to bioplastic or fossil plastics. Why is this? Nowadays, only 1% is made from bioplastics and 99% is fossil. So there needs to be some kind of transition phase from fossil to renewable. And we want to help enable the industry to achieve that.
Right, okay, thank you for clarity, understood. It's a bold claim you make, but we've come across quite a few alt plastic companies, and quite a few of them also like to make that claim. Whether they're telling the truth or not's another story, but I guess how can you sort of validate it, especially considering, I guess you guys are quite early at the moment?
Which claim exactly?
The one where you basically, the thing with these alt plastic companies is they always try and hit sort of three buckets. It's often they want to try and hit price parity, they want to hit the functionality, and then they want to be renewable. And most of the time, even though they claim all three, once you do a bit of DD, you find out that they've barely hit maybe 2 out of the 3. So yeah, just curious about your thoughts of, because you guys say you guys are the first, just how are you going to validate that?
Thank you for that question. So basically, other companies are a lot of the times competing with fossil fuel plastics like PE, polyethylene, polypropylene, $1-2 per kilo, right? We're not competing with that. We're competing with petrochemical additives that cost between $10 to $100 and more per kilo. They're very expensive. and we're not the main constitute of the package. So nowadays, bioplastics are already, in some cases, competitive with other fossil-based plastics. Like if you look at bio-based PE, polyethylene, it is really slightly more expensive than normal fossil-based. So essentially, we're only allowing them to be completely renewable. And because regulation in Europe, which I'd love to dive into, why is forcing the manufacturers to care deep in their pockets, that's why we can actually state that we're cost effective.
Right. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Maybe just a follow-up question to that also, because you mentioned some of the material properties as being a UV reflector or protector, oxygen barrier, and also minimizing sort of the impact of microorganisms. So I assume it's a food application you're targeting for the end product.
We're looking, yeah, you're right. We're looking first for cosmetics and then move into food. Exactly.
Okay, which food types initially?
So for example, coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Coffee is very sensitive to light and very sensitive to oxygen. That's why nowadays a lot of packaging is using laminates. It's using plastic like PE and aluminum. Now these packaging, because it's a couple of materials, are making it not recyclable and very expensive. But the package has to be able to provide the performance to keep the coffee reaching your house and tasting good. So this could be our beachhead in the food sector.
Okay, very clear. What about time to market? How many years and how many millions of dollars do you need to reach commercial scale?
So commercial scale, it's a broad spec. What do you mean? Couple of hundreds or a couple of thousands of metric tons? Could you?
Yeah, whatever you deem is necessary to serve like one of the big FMCGs or packaging manufacturers that you're investing as your core customers. I just saw that your next step is the pilot scale, right? And I assume you need to build out a factory at some point.
Yeah. So we want to build a factory only for the to prove the technology. And then we want to use a CMO model. Also, Matt, this is answering your question that wasn't translated well in the email. And to build the pilot, the commercial pilot capable of doing a couple of hundreds of kilos, we estimated to be there in costing around $10 million.
Mm-hmm. And how many years?
They're estimated at 4 years.
4 years before you can reach sort of a stage where you can put it to a CMO.
This is proving already commercially, yeah.
Okay.
And because we're not the main constitute of the package, then there isn't such a large burden to reach a lot of the actual product, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the team, who's going to drive the commercialization of the product? It looked like a very technical founding team.
We're going to hire a VP of sales once we reach that milestone.
Thanks.
One question on the feedstock. So you said that it's industrial organic waste. Do you have a preferred source of that waste, or is it just can it be quite generic?
So we do not have. We do have as a part of what we characterized in our POC in order to materialize it. We used things like the straw and the wood chips, etc. But the important thing to note about fungi is that their natural authority in nature is the ground recyclers, right? They're basically everywhere. You know, they're growing in your fridge, on your cheese if you want it or not, or on the bread. So that's the kind of manufacturing power we're harnessing. So we have a great flexibility in terms of the different waste streams that we can use.
Perfect. Thank you.
Which probably also makes it very hard to patent and protect your process, because there is a massive manufacturing force of nature kind of trying to do similar things.
We would not write the patent on this. This will remain the know-how of the company, but of the formulations of the actual product, because this also creates a commercially defensible patent and not just a patent.
Understood. What do you view as the biggest risk in the company?
So to reach the commercialization, we need to first have the pilot, like we described previously. And these companies do not like to change the parameters of their huge machines. So this would be the main risk. That's why we've already been in contact with these business entities. They're called plastic compounders within Israel, and also global players like Amcor, one of the biggest companies, to already breach these gaps.
And then what brought you to this? What's your background?
I did a volunteering in Ethiopia. It's a country of 110 million people, and they have no waste infrastructure whatsoever. Nobody comes to pick up the waste, literally no one. So what they do, every family at the end of the day, they do a small plastic pile in front of their house and they burn it. And I had to do it, and it hurt me to do it. And actually, realistically, in Western countries, it's not much better. We just do it in a big factory. But the situation is just really quite horrendous in this aspect. And I think that using biotechnology, we can keep the same high life standards, but not compromise our health and our planet's health. So this is my kind of motivation.
Very cool. Very cool. I think it's a very meaningful motivation. How do you compare? Actually, no, we'll save that for another time. Thanks, Rotem, for presenting this.
Thank you so
Any
much.
last questions, Aaron or Mathias?
Well, thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Folks, if it's your first startup tank, if it's your first rodeo, hit the subscribe button. Check out our site if you're interested in pitching, or if you're interested in kind of accelerating and in a real way accelerating and get serious customers, clients, traction, etc. Visit forward.vc and check out our partner in crime program, because, well, everyone, when you're building a business, you could use a partner in crime. Speaking of, well, not really speaking of, but I don't have a great transition here. How about we jump to low-cost graphene manufacturing? Bade, do you want to take things over and share a little bit more about what you guys are doing?
Sure. Thank you, Matt.
Absolutely.
And let me to share the screen. Can you see my screen right now?
Looks good. Take it away. Tell us about NuoNano.
Okay, yes. Thank you, Matt. I'm Mehdad, the founder of NuoNano. I'm going to present a novel process for mass production of the graphene we called SAPEX. And I'm pretty sure you know about the graphene. Just, I think the time is start, yeah, Matt?
Yep, graphene is good.
Yeah. Graphene is a wonderful material of the 21st century. And it is the thinnest material, most strong material, 200 times stronger than the steel, very flexible, super conductive, more than the copper. And for the electrical is conductive for the insulation, for the thermal as well. And this unique property of the graphene gives a big opportunity to use for advanced technology, same as energy and battery in the lithium-ion battery, in the composite, I mean the polymer, or in the inorganic system, same as the concrete. For example, for the concrete, it decreased 30% CO2 emission. And for the coating, for the smart painting, as well for anti-scratch and anti-UV material. There's a big market of the graphene for this technology, but you can't see the graphene more in industry right now. What is the reason of that system? The reason of we can't see the graphene more in the industry right now, because of the limitation of the mass production of the graphene, with a high quality mass production of the graphene with low operating cost. And this operating cost is high and is not green, and because it's a cost to the high value of the graphene in the market. Right now, the graphene in the market, the lowest cost is around 200 pounds per kilogram, up to 12,000 pounds just for the powder. The main challenges for the production of the graphene is based on the time-consuming process. The most process is chemical process, and it's more than 2 days working on that system. They use a hazardous material and poisoning material, same as a strong acid, sulfuric acid, chloric acid, NMP, DMSO. They are very poisoning material. They have two effects. One, on the safety of the system with the complicated control of the system. Another item is regarding the waste treatment of that system, is add the value to operating cost. Another problem about the current process in the market, in the industry, is about a multi-step process, is including the oxidation, reduction, heating, cooling, separation, filtration, waste management. Every process we add to the system, we need energy consumption. Energy consumption is going up, and we have an operating cost going up. Another problem is about the low yield of the production of the graphene from the graphite as a raw material.
2-minute warning.
This item altogether increase the production cost. Our solution is a very simple way, just based on the one reactor that I developed based on my 16 years working in the nanomaterial and the oil and gas and battery sector. We use just CO2, just recycle that system. And we have a PC patent based on that system, secure the system. This is very a fast process, less than 4 hours, and we can increase the scale of the system up to 300 kilograms. We have right now the prototype of 2 kilograms is included, is the same as the semi-pilot production, with a net value of the 80%. It's green process and high quality as well. Right now, the key point of the graphene is mass production with high quality. Right now, we have 2 kilograms here. The competitor for us for that quality is 1 kilogram. And we are going to reach the 25 kilograms, is a pilot scale. And based on that, we are using this fund and this round for £1 million for that system to use for the engagement with the potential customer and market, and to reduce the operating cost. After this stage, we reach 300 kilograms, is based on one reactor, and is commercial state. And in one big system, we have 8 tons of that system. And here is regarding the comparison with the energy consumption. The requirement for chemical is 265, but for the green process, we have is 4 kilowatt. Is a fraction of that system. Most operating cost is based on the energy. And the ability of the system to mass production for the chemical is high, but the energy consumption is high. But for system, the ability of mass production is high with low energy cost. This gives us the net profit margin of 85% of the system. And just the team should be me, Professor Peter Dabson as advisory board, and 2% Dr. Simpson, who is a co-founder of some company in Oxygreen in Oxford, and Dr. Amir as well for the co-founder of the Prisica. And I received this item, and Peter is one person famous in the world regarding nanomaterial, and the founder of 3 company and the head of the science park of the Oxford University. Thank you.
Time is up.
Thank you.
Awesome, Mehrdad. Thanks for presenting.
Yeah.
I hope it wasn't too technical for anybody.
Yeah.
It's a little deep for me. What's the current cost for buying commodity or just market pricing on graphene these days?
The graphene price is based on the quality. It's very broad range. The lowest is around 200 pounds per kilogram. but we have some cost is around 12,000 pounds per kilogram as well. So it's based on the quality is very important. What is that? And the low quality is something similar to graphite. That is not graphene. It's graphite, but they sell as a graphene.
When something seems like a silver bullet or a all perfect solution, it sometimes is too good to be true. It sounds too good to be true. What's the downside? What are we missing?
For what? The missing of what?
Well, just when something sounds too good to be true, there's usually something to find. I'm trying to figure out what that something is.
Yeah, if you want to throw that one, for the we need to just characterization of the graphene. There is an ISO for the graphene to see what is graphene, what is not. They issued by the ISO company in 2021, March last year, and based on characterization we have done, it shows there is a graphene.
Not sure I totally got. What do you see as the biggest risk in the business? Let's just.
Oh, the biggest risk of the business is lack of the fund in the right time is a big concern. The second should be the long processing of the achieve to the market, to the engagement with potential market.
Speaking of, you seem very technical. How do you plan on selling this into industry?
Based on this fundraising, when we receive the fund, we are starting to negotiate with the target company, especially in the battery material, lithium-ion battery, same as the LG or Hitachi. I had some connection with the some company in China, the big company for lithium-ion battery, and they are using right now the graphene based on the lead-acid batteries, and they are very willing for this material. And during the based on the engagement with them, and send the customize the product for them, give the feedback up to 1 year. At the same time, we're reaching to the 25 kilogram to reduce the low cost. After 6 months, after 12 months, we have the plan. We have a first customer and first sell of the system, sell of the product.
And that's when you do a seed round or something larger?
Yeah, right now, after that, the program is, our plan is around 15 months to 18 months for this round, and that is for £1 million. And after that, we are looking for around £6 million for 24 months to reach the a small plant with just one reactor. Okay. The system needs just very small space. The capital cost is not too much.
Mathias, Aaron?
Well, I can give it a go. To be completely transparent, this is definitely outside my area of comfort. So apologies if some naive questions come along. But when you present it, it's hard to see that this is actually a true venture case. I mean, how is an investor going to realize that 20x or more on the initial investment? It seems the only way to scale this business is to build more bioreactors or reactors for the process itself. So how are you going to make room for an exit here? For an investment?
My background is from the MSc or BSc is chemical engineer, and then go to the nanomaterial, advanced material, and 6 years in that area. And my specialty is design of the reactor. This design is based on 16 years work on that system. The reactor is very small, not big, and there's no chemical use, it's a physical. So this is a value of the process. We can have, for example, for CVD is the method for production graphene high quality, but the capital cost is too much, and the ability of the production, mass production, is low as well.
I don't know if you answered totally what Mathias was saying, but they're doing $3 million per reactor per day, Mathias, in revenue, based off of the numbers he said. That's how it might be venture scale. Okay, but so we're talking about like a dividend case here, where the return is going to come through cash distributions, or how should I understand it?
Yeah.
Okay. I can. I've got a few questions. So I guess my first one is are you positioning as a greener way to produce graphene or a lower cost way of producing?
The green is for two sections, one for the production, one for application. For production, the energy consumption of the system is fraction of the other item. So the CO2 emission is low. Another item for the green is regarding the process. We don't produce the waste, hazardous waste, to the environment. is first from the process. From the application for example, for the concrete, they reduce 30% of the CO2 emission. For the lithium-ion battery is a green energy for that system, and increase around 20% performance of the lithium-ion battery based on my experience in the battery sector with the graphene.
Right. And is there a inherent market pull from industry to have graphene produced in a greener way? Because most of the sort of industrial or the big corporates we speak to, they tend to really prioritize functionality over having green. Green is a nice to have, but it's not a must have. So do you see maybe from a governmental level or regulatory level it coming through, or is there an inherent pull from the market?
For the green type, just as a process, there is a CVD is something sometimes using the plasma is a green system, but it's very expensive system. But regarding functionalization of the graphene is another method. We can use a type of the CFD or plasma to functionalize that graphene and to use in the industry. But the functionality of the graphene is much, much expensive than the powder as well. We are going during that process 1 year with some chemical, we functionalize that graphene as well.
Okay, right. And lastly, you said you've been working on this technology for 10 years. Was that been at a academic institution or university?
Just 2005, I started my PhD regarding nanomaterial. 2009 finished, and after that worked 3 years working in oil and gas and the nanotechnology in that system. I worked adjunct to the University of Southampton for 6 years as a postdoc research fellow, just to developing the reactor for the next generation of nanomaterial for them. And after that, in the battery sector, I developed the reactors. And all here, I worked as a research scientist in the lab, as an engineer developer in the pilot plant, as a designer of the refinery, I mean this equipment as a semi-process engineer. So I know what is the problem and bottleneck between the lab scale and the bigger scale. And I conduct the scale up as well. For example, for my last company.
Okay, great. I mean, just the main reason I'm asking is that I was just curious if any of the IP that will be used for this current company has been developed at any other academic institutions. And if that's the case, will you be licensing it, or does the IP sit with the company?
Right now, I have an IP with PCT. We had around 6 months deep search about that system. There is no similar IP about that system. But right now, we have a PCT, and we are going to have a patent, or maybe US patent or Euro patent after this fund.
Perfect. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The last question I guess I would have for you is, which of the market opportunities for graphene do you attack first, and why?
Based on my conversion, 2 is the first is lithium-ion batteries, because I have some experience about using graphene in this area. And the second should be the concrete. And right now in the UK, we have some company named National Engineering Group. They use a graphene in the concrete.
How exactly are they using graphene in concrete? What's the kind of use case or purpose?
When we use a graphene in the concrete, around 1 kilogram graphene in 10,000 kilogram concrete is the level something. And is at the value of around 5% add to the value of the concrete, but it increases 30% performance of the load strength of the concrete. This 30% load, it means we need a 30% decrease in the volume. We can do that. And this effect is 30% CO2 reduction.
Okay, so it's like generally using steel as a rebar in concrete.
Yeah.
It's some similar replacement.
Yeah.
Understood. Any last questions, Mathias or Aaron?
No.
Awesome. Then let me take a moment to say that the Startup Tank is brought to you guys by Valbon by Carta. If you're setting up an SPV, if you're an investor like us and you run a syndicate, or if you're a startup and you have to manage your cap table, give employee stock options and everything else to run your venture scale business, Carta by Valbon by Carta, and Carta is a great way to do it. Check them out, forward.vc/Carta. and tell them the Startup Tank sent you. And this is also presented by the Eugen Agency. They're going to have cool prizes. We'll tell you a little bit more in the Startup of the Night segment at the end. To find out more about them and what they do, visit forward.vc/design to see why we love them, and they're our favorite design partners for climate companies that are looking to have a major impact on the branding and business side of things. Now we gotta move on to our last segment of the night, the climate start of the night. This is presented to you guys by Eugen, our favorite design agency. If you need a pitch deck, if you need a logo, if you need a website, anything to do with branding, a landing page, etc., they're the ones to go to. And whoever wins tonight, well, you're going to get 5,000 British pounds, not just dollars, in free services. Although the pound's getting hammered these days, that's still a ton of money. And everybody else, you'll get a free strategy consulting session on your brand and kind of way to position it and potential possibilities for improving that. Now, the startup of the night, basically, this is us chatting around like a bunch of beers, saying, okay, who's our favorite company? Who would you want to set up a meeting with? What are the 1, 2, 3 that you were most impressed by, and why? Does anybody want to go first? Let the silence do the work. Okay. Nobody wants to go first. I will go first this time. So in terms of me personally, the companies I was most excited about, I mean, I really like what Made Right is doing in terms of creating kind of a way to make plastics and bioplastics more performative, if that is in fact a word. Because that's one of the issues we've seen. We invested in Applied Bioplastics via our syndicate, and they're decarbonizing durable plastic and plastics in general. What we learned from going through that process was there's not a lot of great bioplastics out there. And if this helps other bioplastics, especially in the kind of polyethylene and single-use plastic space, enter the market, less plastic in the world is a good thing, especially if our plastic is now grown from mushrooms. And the other one that I was pretty excited about is Moree. I don't know necessarily if it's going to be Moree that ends up winning, but I do like the concept of sustainable, reusable, circular packaging that you can drop off in kind of a post box, because pretty much everything that we throw out in our house is food products, just the packaging. And it's annoying to see so much packaging getting tossed into a garbage for no reason. There's got to be a good solution. Maybe it's these guys. And if it is, and their patent really holds up and no one else is able to do that on a kind of scalable, systematic way, maybe there's something there. Aaron, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So I echo your sentiment with Made Right. I like the rising tide sort of raises all the ship sort of attitude towards, if they can help the functionality of other bioplastics, it's a good thing for everybody. On top of that, I think mushrooms and fungi are underutilized technology, and I think that's a trend that's going to be increasing as we move forward. I was also quite curious about the graphene production company. I can't remember the Nuonano,
yeah. I was very impressed as well. I just had a little trouble following.
Yeah, I'd like to maybe learn a little bit more about the actual tech behind it, the functionality behind it, and the sort of because graphene, I think it was mentioned recently that, you know, it seems a bit like a magical material that can do everything, but the real bottleneck is actual production. And I think having a sustainable and more efficient way to produce that's quite interesting. I'd like to dig into the science a little bit more with that. So I'd say those two particularly resonated with me. But to be honest, I was quite impressed with just the overall quality of all of them. And I think the first company we met, Aquilitas,
yeah.
Yeah, Aquilitas. That made me quite excited because there's, unfortunately, especially in the climate space, we don't see many high quality water companies. And I think that the sort of combination of having the IoT sensors as well as a software platform as well was a intelligent approach. And it's just nice to see a few more sort of water companies coming up.
Especially if the water system is really that dumb, so to speak, that it's not intelligent. Mathias, what about you?
Yeah, I think I'm very much on the same page. I mean, Aquilita stood out to me for sure. I love that they had a partnership with Netafim already, very strong technical team for sure. I know they commented on the sales aspect, but I'm not sure if they have enough sales competencies or commercial competencies in the team. And then it's really hard to tell also because it's sensor technology. So we need like a proper dive into the underlying technology to say for sure. But the market is gigantic. It's a real problem. And it sounds like they have some strong partnerships already lined up. So quite promising. Moree, I don't believe in so much myself. I've seen so many of those companies. For me, it's very limited IP. And in some countries, I come from Denmark, where we're quite a sophisticated recycling system already run by the government. Very little go to waste already, and if you throw out trash, it's going for central heating systems. That's quite effective. So if we actually need a solution like this rather than a biodegradable sort of packaging system, I'm not fully convinced. Yeah, and it's really crowded market already. I really like Made Right. I love that they are an additive company and not trying to do the actual polymers end-to-end themselves. A lot of people are trying to do that also. So they're playing in a niche of a niche, but in a super fast-growing market. Quite interesting. And then lastly, on the nano a company or graphene company, to be honest, I don't understand the technology well enough to judge them. But based on the pitch itself, it seems like a really interesting opportunity for sure.
Yeah, if the numbers and everything work out, that one's pretty fascinating. Then are we going with Made Right or are we going with Nuo Nano?
If the choice is between those two, I would prefer Made Right personally. But that's also because it's closer to what I invest in on a day-to-day basis. I'm very close to. We have invested in the bioplastics company, just for full transparency. So I'm super biased, to be honest. But yeah, I like the pitch. I like the idea.
I would go with Made Right as well, because one of the things I've found is charisma plays a big role in venture. And I think, Merdad, that's something kind of pitching that's probably something you need to work on a little bit to be able to get the information across a little bit more clearly. Everything is taken constructively. Aaron, what about you?
Yeah, my pick would be between, I think, Aqualitas and Made Right. But if you two have gone with Made Right, then I'm happy to skew towards that way as well.
Awesome. Then congratulations, Rotem and Made Right. Yeah, and congratulations, everybody, for pitching. I'll send you a little bit more information on the prizes, of course. That's from the Eugen agency. You can check them out at forward.vc/Eugen or /design. And if you're trying to set up ESOPs, or you're trying to run an SPV, or you're trying to set up a venture fund, I don't know anyone who is, but if I did, I might point them towards Valbon. And they're a great way to do it from Carta, basically one of the biggest and best players in the overall funding startup landscape. Check them out, forward.vc/Carta. Mathias, where can people find you and learn a little bit more?
Please contact me on LinkedIn. I would be really highly appreciated. Yeah, thanks.
And Aaron?
Yep, same. So it's just my name on LinkedIn. We also have on our website, there's a platform where you can just basically submit your pitch deck. So and then we try and get back to companies as quickly as possible.
We have the same.
And for us, if you want to pitch, this is the Startup Tank, thestartuptank.com. You can apply there. If you're a pre-seed to a pre-series A company doing something awesome in the climate space, we'd love to hear from you. Again, if you're in that pre-seed or seed kind of stage and you're looking to get some serious traction with customers, pilots, and really be able to raise a real seed round, not just kind of fake the numbers, forward.vc/accelerator. You can learn more about our Partner in Crime Accelerator program. And if you're looking to raise and you're trying to find all the investors out there and pretty much everything they're looking for, forward.vc/VC database. We've got 850 funds, incubators, accelerators, and CVCs. It's filterable by focus, stage, sector, geography, check size. So you can find your ideal investor, whether that's me, Mathias, Aaron, or somebody else. And this has been another episode of the Startup Tank. Check us out at thestartuptank.com. Hit the subscribe bell, share this around, and remember, we're all on the same team, Team Planet. So share a little karma. It comes around. Cheers.